Hi, my name is Kimberly Peirce. You may remember me from Boys Don't Cry. I just directed a new movie called Stop Loss, which I'm incredibly excited about.
Brandon Leonard King,
Yes.
you have orders to report to the 1st Brigade.
Not me. I'm getting out today.
You leave on the 22nd, shipping back to Iraq. You've been stop lost.
First of all, I was in New York during 9/11, and I unfortunately saw the towers fall. And immediately, my friends and I started going to vigils for the victims. And it was very moving. New York was in a state of mourning. And about that time, America entered the war. And that was very surprising for all of us. And I became very interested in who the soldiers were who were signing up, what their reasons for signing up were, what their experiences in combat were, and what it was like for them to come home. And right about the time that I started working on a project about that, my baby brother told us that he was enlisting. It thrust the war front and center into our lives. So on a daily basis, my mother, my sister, and I were dealing with the fact that my younger brother was over in Iraq. Pretty much at night, I go to sleep and I hear in the middle of the night, ding, because his days were my nights. And I come out and I see, what up? So I write back, what up? And he would say, same old. I would say, okay, but I don't know what the same old is because you're in Iraq. And then he would proceed to tell me what his days were like.
My daddy served in the army, but he lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in my yard till the day that...
There's always that moment in the piece that just gets to me time and time again. And I'm wondering for each of you, in this film, what is that one moment?
For me, it's the relationship between the men. It took making the movie to realize how profound the brotherhood and that connection is. So for me, I started out thinking it was a movie about guys who signed up for all the right reasons, to defend their home, their country, and their family after 9/11, but who had this relationship with these other men, which almost every soldier said to me, when you fight in combat with another guy and you're willing to risk your life for him, that ends up being the most profound relationship you will ever have. Around the end of the movie, that scene in the cemetery and the scene on the bus, it's just, no matter what, in the end, he can make no other choice but to go back with his guys.
How come you didn't have any female soldiers?
You're asking all these questions. We came across some women soldiers, but really, from what my brothers explained to me and other soldiers, women are not allowed into the Army combat units. So if a woman is going to end up fighting, she's generally going to be National Guard. She's not supposed to be, but particularly in the 1544th, there were women fighting, but that was because they were being pinned in when they were driving the generals back and forth. So I really had to make a choice. I was either going to tell one woman's story, and it would have been a very unique story. It could have been great, but it wouldn't have been reflective of the common experience among soldiers, because most soldiers are not women, and most women soldiers are not doing combat. So if I wanted to tell a story that was universal and completely reflective of this generation, I had to do Army, and I had to do a Band of Brothers, and I had to explore their camaraderie. So many soldiers talk about a kind of claustrophobic feeling, a feeling of, as they say, fighting in people's bedrooms and hallways and kitchens and being enclosed. So when we found the alley with those homes in it, we felt that that was really right. It was important to pin the guys in, so we, raised the Humvees in. When we're getting to the point where the RPG is coming down and he's falling and we're cutting to somebody else who's exploding and cutting back, that's all really challenging. Keeping the emotions really truthful while blowing things up and blowing people up, I think was the biggest challenge for me in the Iraq section. Because you want to keep the audience invested, but you got a lot of balls in the air. You got to keep it really simple.
It was just so insightful, so compelling. The characters, the acting was just brilliant. Just brilliant. And I also want to know how you pulled off the special effects on the prosthetic pieces.
We use a combination of makeup, prosthetics, binding, and CGI. As you look at these different injuries, and then you look at the action of the scene and you say, okay, if this guy unfortunately was hit by an RPG and he was blown this far, what kind of burns would he have?
Yeah.
What would happen to his limbs? So you have to be completely accurate about the results of the wounding.
Hola.
It's interesting, for me it's really challenging because I have to direct with an actor who can't see, an actor whose legs and arms are bound behind him, who has tons of makeup on, and we have to make sure not to ruin that makeup, who's balancing prosthesis, and then when we're putting like the arm on, we're putting that on and we're having to cut between, you put the arm on, but then you have to get rid of this arm and make it move, and then we're doing blue screen.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, it's like a balancing act to make the emotion work and have all those elements working.
A new movie about the Iraq War is now in theaters. It deals with a little-known military policy that some call a slap in the face of troops who have already served their country.
It's called Stop Loss, and before the movie of the same name opened in theaters Friday, most Americans had never heard of it.
First of all, I think Americans are less apathetic than we give them credit for. Because I find when you put the movie in front of them and when you actually engage them in stories about the war, but that are personal stories, then they find themselves very intrigued by it. I mean, I find that soldiers and their families want to know about it. And I find, which is amazing to me, is that people who are not in the military say, oh my God, I didn't know that this was happening. And I have a website that they've written in like 1,000 comments, and they say, what can I do? How can I do something to help? So, you know, it's funny, you keep hearing Iraq war fatigue and this apathy, and I think it's our job to kind of cut through it and deliver the personal story, because when you do, people really do care.
Every movie that comes out of Hollywood is either suspect of being patriotic or counter-patriotic to the United States, like either it's bashing the government or for the government. Thank you for making a movie that did not seem to be one way or the other, like it wasn't preaching one message.
I want to be as unbiased about it as possible. And that's why I said it's about giving Steve a strong argument and Brandon a strong argument. And, you know, everybody, it's interesting, people keep pressing me, well, what are your views, what are your views? And I say, my view is I just want to bring the characters to life. And I just think that that's the only way really to make good stories.
We love the movie.
Yeah, it was
Great.
really awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. Kimberly, you are so cool.
Woo!